started being filmed. I was just enjoying a paper and this pipe that's not lit. Enough of these shenanigans. It's just a quick video that again will probably turn into a long-winded rant, but this time I'm going to do a video on scopes and zeroing in your scope and what happens when you zero your scope in by adjusting the mounts. Right, this video is basically for the beginners who are starting out shooting, like us. And basically, I'm just going to explain what happens when you zero your sights up, because when I started, I wasn't entirely clued up about what was happening inside the scope when I was zeroing it in, and if I knew, it probably would have made it a lot easier. So basically, the scopes have a crosshair in the centre of the scope, and the crosshairs can be moved up and down and left and right. They can be altered onto any yardage. So if you predominantly shoot in rats, you can change your scope to be shooting at 10 yards, and if you're wanting to go out shooting pigeons and rabbits, you can alter them to shooting at 25 yards, 20 yards. And the way you do it is with these turrets here, like I said, up and down, left and right. Now the turrets on the scopes can be different. This one you have to alter it using a coin in a slot, and this one you just twist it with your fingers. Each click on each different scope will be a different measurement for a percentage of yard. So on this one, each click of an inch, 1/8 of an inch at 100 yards. On this one, it's 1/4 of an inch for every 100 yards. So what you need to do is, firstly, is you take your rifle out into the field and you set up a target and you pace the target out at 25 yards. You'll then take 10 shots through your rifle, aiming at the centre of the target with your crosshairs bang on the centre, and what you'll find that'll happen is your pellet group will be nowhere near the centre of the target. And what you then have to do after you've sent 10 pellets through the rifle is go up to the target and assess where you need to change your scope. So if it's shooting low and to the right, you need to move your scope turret up and left. So if you're shooting low and right, you're wanting to go up and left onto the target. And with each click, you'll be able to finely tune your rifle so that you're shooting say a penny or a 5p at 20 yards. Now it doesn't matter what model scope it is or how big the scope is, that is the same for any scope. Are we rolling?
Yeah.
Are we sure?
Action.
Right, this is what's happening inside your scope. It's exaggerated for the purpose of my drawing ability, which, as you can tell, is awful. I thought I was quite good at art. Teacher kept saying I were artistic. I didn't think I were any good really, but later found out she meant autistic. Anyway, this is what's happening, exaggerated for your scope. When you look through your scope, you're looking down towards the barrel. Okay, the pellet that comes out the barrel is coming out flat, or pretty much flat. It does rise a little bit and then fall. Some people say it doesn't, but it does a little bit. And your scopes need to be zeroed in at 20 yards. So when the pellet reaches 20 yards distance from the barrel, obviously to the target, your crosshairs and scope need to be aligned bang on that point, just there. So when the pellet is at 20 yards, the crosshairs are bang on the pellet's line. Okay, now a lot of you will be thinking, well, what do I need to do if the rabbit's further away from 20 yards or closer to 20 yards? Well, when you're looking through your scope you can't really see what you need to do, but with this drawing it becomes clear what you need to do.
So memorise it.
So memorise it. If the rabbit's set at 20 yards, you know that your crosshairs, which is this line here, will be bang on the pellet's line at 20 yards. So if you're aiming at your rabbit's head there, you've got it. Say your rabbit sat here at 30 yards. If you put your crosshairs on the head, your crosshair line is here. So you'll be aiming low. So what you need to do is, you need to be aiming above the rabbit's head, so to here, so that you align again with the pellet's trajectory. And the same thing if the rabbit is closer than 20 yards, so you've snuck round the corner, you've looked over a hedge and the rabbit's just sat there, it's not seen you. Say it's 10 yards away from you, it's here. If you put the crosshairs bang on its head, you'll be aiming above the rabbit's head, you'll be aiming up here. The rabbit's head's here, you'll be aiming up here. So what you need to do in that case is bring the crosshairs lower down, so you're sort of aiming at its sort of shoulder height, chest height.
Or hit it with a shovel.
And it aligns the scope with the pellet trajectory. Okay? So again, if it's at 20 yards and that's where you've zeroed your scope at, then put the crosshairs directly on its head. If it's at 30 yards you need to be aiming above the head, and if it's at 15 yards you need to be aiming below the head to align the scope crosshair line with the trajectory of the pellet. Alright, now as you go out shooting time and time again, you'll know with your scope how far up and down you'll need to aim. And most now, the crosshairs are like that, and some have dots or lines, and they're called mil dots like this. Okay, so you'll know on your scope, there might even be instructions telling you at what yardage. If you set it 20 yards, you're shooting at 30 yards, there might even be instructions with your scope as to which mil dot to use. Okay, so if this is bang on crosshairs and you're shooting at a rabbit at 30 yards, you might need to have a 2 mil dot hold over the target. So you go to the second mil dot and you put that on the rabbit's head. Sorry, that's at 15 yards. You need to be aiming above it, so you need to be on the second mil dot or the third mil dot to be getting it bang on. Okay, but the more you go out, you'll know when you're shooting your rifle how far to aim above or below. And that's basically it. Just a bit of a crude drawing, but it shows what's happening inside your scope in relation to the line of the pellet's taking. So that about covers everything you need to know with the basics on how to zero in a rifle scope. If you've got any questions or if you've got any comments, leave them below, and as always, subscribe. Sure.
A pretty girl came up to me, what's that thing supposed to be? I stepped back and said with pride.